Massive thanks to the mad lads and ladies supporting the channel. The doggos say thanks. Hey everyone, it's time for some more Monster Hunter, and today we're going to be doing our last real easy mission before things really start picking up. So this is going to be the Fang of the Iodrome. After this, I believe all we have left is a Plesioth, which I don't think we've fought yet, outside of multiplayer missions anyway, and the Queen of the Desert, the Rathian. Now, the thing about this Fang of the Iodrome is I think this might be one of the modded quests. If it's not, then, I mean, it kind of follows the same route. This literally is just a multiplayer mission. So, because we are so, you know, we have a high-ranked weapon and we're doing pretty good there, I'm not really too worried about struggling with this too much. These are just Iodrome after all. Now, the poison could potentially be a problem as well as the damage. But as little damage as Rathalos does with his normal attacks to me, the thing I really only worry about right now is the poison. Now, that said, I did forget to buy antidotes just now, so let's give it up for foresight and planning, because I didn't even think about the antidotes until literally I said, you know, I forgot the antidotes right as I started the mission. As is, the three Iodrome, they're not really spread out too far on the map. I believe one is, I believe they're going to be in area 3 or 7 starting out, one of them at least. I'm not exactly sure where they spawn, but that's normally where they come in. Now, the thing about the Iopray and the Iodrome is, the Iodrome really is considered to be one of the least favorite monsters in the series. And not because it's hated per se. A lot of people consider it like, you know, I actually made a video on this before whenever I was fighting it in Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate, I think, which is Monster Hunter Double Cross on the 3DS, but Generations Ultimate is just a ported version of that to the Nintendo Switch. But a lot of people really don't like the Iodrome. Personally, I like him. I think he's a pretty cool dude. I love the axe head thing he's got going on, and I really dig it. Unfortunately, there are a lot of people, pretty much most of the Monster Hunter community, to my knowledge at least, have said, like, Iodrome is useless, he's pointless, he's boring, there's nothing unique about him. I can kind of understand that. I mean, I was about to say, you know, oh, it's basically an Iopray that spits poison, but he's not even, like, even the Iopray spit poison. I guess a Velocipray that spits poison, or a Velocidrome that spits poison, but I can't understand it. He has like a couple of bite attacks, attack with his claws, and then the poison spit. So it does really limit how fun Iodrome can be to fight. But in my personal opinion, just the Velocidrome, Iodrome, and Gendrome all together, I think as a whole, they're pretty boring myself, although I can understand their place in the series. Like, at least in these older games. And after fighting Iodrome in Generations Ultimate, I think he has a lot more redeeming qualities. I think he's a lot more fun to fight and interesting to fight. But in these older games, they really only have like 4, maybe 5 or 6 at most attacks to work through. And with such a limited pool for what's supposed to be effectively a boss monster, it can really limit the fun factor on, you know, fighting these enemies and dealing with them in general. Alright, in typical Monster Hunter fashion, the hardest part about these missions really is just finding the monster. Once you actually do, it's not as bad, you know, in terms of actually playing through the mission. This is actually what the fun part is, but don't get me wrong, I don't necessarily like how they did it in Monster Hunter Rise and Monster Hunter Wilds, where the monster is just always on your map. But at the same time, it's like, I think I miss it when it was more like world style. I actually like the idea of hunting these monsters down. Not in a tedious run around like a chicken with your head cut off kind of way like it is in this game, but also, you know, not like, obviously, having them show exactly where you are and then, quote, end quote, hunting them, when all you're really doing is just going straight to them and ignoring the rest of the world. But I like the way that World did it the most, and I wish they would have, like, reiterated on that system. Like, maybe not the scout flies. I personally find the scout flies to be really annoying. And as a result, you know, obviously, I don't want the scout flies to come back. But at the same time, it's like, I like the thought of you're using tracks to kind of, I guess, kind of like a sort of Witcher sense or Assassin's Eye or whatever. Basically like a sort of vision button, like a hotkey for a sort of vision you can bring up where it shows like where your hunter thinks the monster is. And it's not accurate every time, and, you know, instead of leading you to the monster, it could just lead you to more clues about the monster. I guess kind of like Batman and his investigator mode in Batman Arkham Asylum. that's something that I really enjoy. It's like actually tracking down the enemy and tracking down the monster for the hunts. And, you know, don't get me wrong, it's like, I understand that a lot of people might not feel that's true to Monster Hunter, but personally, for me at least, being able to actually hunt down these monsters and, you know, being able to engage in them as a monster instead of, you know, as like a sort of just boss fight, that's something that really, you know, makes the game a lot more fun and interesting to me. It helps me properly engage with the world and use my brain to think and stuff. And without that ability to kind of engage with the world, it just makes it a lot more, you know, it just kind of takes away a lot of the actual hunting aspect of it. Now, not even somebody that likes hunting games in general. Like, you'll never see me play Cabela's game hunting, but something like Elden Ring mixed with a hunting game, which is basically what Monster Hunter is, that is something that really appeals to me personally because, like, there's that, obviously there's that challenge element of, you know, dealing with the enemies and dealing with the boss and stuff that's typical of Monster Hunter, but then you also got those downtime points where you're not, like, running around like a chicken with your head cut off, per se, but you also have to actually stop and pay attention to the world and memorize paths and everything else. Now, another thing I forgot about is in this mission, I actually should have brought me some hot drinks because in areas 9 and 10, it does have like a stamina draining effect from how cold the areas are. I'm actually starting to wonder if the Iodrome spawns in the caves. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go in these caves and I'm just going to pay attention to the ledges and see if there's a spot, like in the swamp with the Gendrome, where the Iodrome might pop out. Because what I'm thinking is, if my theory is correct, the Iodrome's going to pop up out of that cave right there. But I could also be very, very wrong. So I'm going to take a gamble and give it a try and see if Iodrome does pop up here. But if it doesn't, we might be running around just a little bit more than I'd personally like to. Also, like I said, when it comes to these videos and editing them down, I'm not really sure what I can do to kind of make this video fun or, you know, edit it down in a fun way. So honestly, I might just cut it down and then leave it as is. But obviously, you know, like I said, whenever I have more time, I can actually think about these things and spend a few hours editing them instead of like 30 minutes to an hour. Then, yeah, you know, I'll definitely put more effort into them. But I also don't want to force edits because I feel like that would be, you know, kind of antithetical to the point of being a YouTuber. I just kind of want to release these videos to show that, like, the main reason why I wanted to do this in the first place is because, like I said, you know, bringing together, fighting against loneliness, bringing people together around Monster Hunter, or just a community of people who like Monster Hunter. And, or, you know, just people in general. But also, on top of that, I mean, all that aside, also I just want to showcase every single quest in the series for archival purposes. Okay, here's Iodrome. So it looks like he actually spawns here. So I'm going to go ahead and pelt him with a paintball and see if I can kill some of these Iodrome before they actually become a problem. Like I said, whenever it comes to the big monsters and little monsters, I usually try to take down at least some of the little monsters first so that I don't get, like, comboed into something that'll end up killing me. Because these little monsters can definitely be a problem if you let them. Obviously, if they infinitely respawn, there's, like, not really much you can do, but for something like this, where there's just a couple of them in the way and the others are kind of staying out the way, I'd rather just take care of some of the little monsters just to get them out the way. Especially because of how big the area is, there isn't really much of an aggro range on the little monsters. So if I'm like on one side of the map with the Iodrome and they're on the other, then they'll just kind of leave me alone and do their own thing. So like in a situation like this, that Iodrome over there, it's not really bothering me too much, but at the same time, I also can't remember if they actually respawn over here or not. So, yeah, like I said, I'm just going to go ahead and beat some of these guys down. Honestly, if I leave the area, they'll probably respawn as well, but I'm not too worried about that right this moment. But as is, since the Iodprey are pretty much all taken care of, I can kind of just bully Iodrome until he ends up dying. Because, if you don't know, in the first gen, and I think in the second gen as well, no, I think it's just in the first gen, and also Monster Hunter Frontier Z, oddly enough, even though it's a second gen game, there's a bug where, I think it's only with Iodrome in Monster Hunter Frontier, you can just, like, infinitely stun lock and launch the monsters. It doesn't seem to be working as well with the Iodrome, but it's definitely more noticeable with Velociprey, where, like, if you hit them right after they do the roar, and they can hit them again, and they'll just infinitely stun lock them, but yeah, it looks like it doesn't really work as well with the Velocidrome, not Velocidrome, the Iodrome. With the Velociraptor, you can literally just stun lock it until it dies, and it's actually hilarious to see, especially because if you're at the start of the game and you do it, then obviously it doesn't have those, whatchamacallits. It doesn't have the ability, excuse me, if you're using a weak weapon, it doesn't get launched. Unless you're, like, halfway through its health. I think it takes a while to properly launch it, so... it's definitely funny to see these enemies just getting, you know, forever stun locked and just beaten down like that. So it's pretty funny stuff. Alright, there we go. Looks like the Velociraptor is dealt with. Not Velociraptor, the second Iodrome is dealt with. I'll go ahead and go back to Area 8 and see if he respawns, because it does look like that's where he tends to spawn. Or at least based on what I saw there. Another thing is I also don't want to go back into those caves for too long, because I think you lose a bar of stamina every 2 minutes, I'm going to say. But I could be wrong there, but I think it's like every 2 minutes or something like that. My guess is that the Velociraptor is actually, not the Velociraptor, the Iodrome is actually going to spawn from here. I'm going to be honest, after all this time playing this game, I never knew this was here. And I also never noticed exactly what this area was. I thought it was kind of like a cave sort of area, but no, this is, wow. Oh my god, this is actually gorgeous. Like, look at that. Look at that. I feel like I could... Like, I know it's just like a JPEG and a shitty low-res, you know, texture or whatever, but upscaled and stuff, like, it's like, I'm not even using a texture pack. This is just the game naturally. This was on the PlayStation 2. Like, I feel like I could go through there. This looks like Dark Souls. Like, I'm not even kidding. This actually, like, over there, it looks like part of the Ash Lake from Dark Souls. Like, if you just completely ignore the water texture, and you just look at the grass, and you look at the trees, and you look at the waterfalls, it looks as good as an Xbox 360 game, and that is just so impressive on the part of Capcom. It's like, dude, how can you make the backgrounds look this good and then not let us go over there? Now I'm sad that we're just locked in this sort of linear zones, because I want to go through there so badly. I just want to explore through there. And, yeah, that's like one of the reasons why I want to live the nomadic lifestyle and do the whole van life and thing for at least a little while, and if I can ever, like, make anything out of myself or get into a comfortable position where I can actually, like, move out of this country or get my own land or something. It's like, this is why I want to be a nomad and, like, explore and stuff, because I see stuff like this, and then my brain doesn't think, oh, that's dark and spooky, that could be dangerous. What it thinks is, oh my god, that looks so freaking cool. Let's go there. And, yeah, it'll probably get me killed someday, I'm sure. I don't know, I might run across a grumpy grizzly bear, who knows, but I don't know. This is such a good-looking game. And also, I can never get over the little crabs that just scuttle away from you whenever you get close. Okay, there's the Velociraptor. I was actually waiting there for a hot minute and it wasn't showing up, and I got a little confused, and I was like, not the Velociraptor, the Iodrome. I keep saying the Velociraptor, but I'm just like, man, where is the Iodrome, dude? But, yeah, there he is. Speaking of Velociraptor, I'm actually surprised they didn't bring him back in Monster Hunter Rise. Like, they brought back the Velociraptor, and that's cool and all, but I was really, really sad. Just like with the Jaggy and the Great Jaggy and the, whatchamacallit, the Rockdor and Ignactor, you know, Mr. Clack Clack Clack. I'm actually hoping he's going to come back in Wilds now, based on who we recently got back there. I'm really hoping Ignactor comes back really soon, because, okay, something like the Velociraptor, I can understand they're not bothering with, like, bringing them back in 5th and 6th gen, because it's like, you know, he's a small fry. Great Jaggy, I can still kind of understand, because it's like, you know, it's a very basic monster, and if you already got the Great Baggy and the Great Roggy, you know, why spend the hundreds, like, you know, thousands or tens of thousands of dollars to port them into the game properly? Which, you know, it sucks, but I kind of get it. But at the same time, it's like, first of all, bring back my boy Great Jaggy, but second of all, it's like, you know, if you already got you know, Baggy and Roggy there, and you already got the baby Jaggy, why not just bring back the Great Jaggy? I don't get it. My guess is it's because of coronavirus and them locking down and, you know, having to work around that. So I probably really gimped the development, unfortunately. But in terms of, like, you know, the Velociraptor, I'm surprised they brought back the Velociraptor, but not the Velociraptor, because I feel like all you have to do is just add a couple moves and then, you know, obviously put in a Velociraptor model and upscale him a little bit. You know, like, increase the size a little bit because it's a drum instead of a prey enemy. And it's like, yeah, boom, there you go. But it is kind of sad. I thought it'd be interesting to have a game where both the Great Jaggy and the Velocidrome were in the same game, because they're both the very starting monsters, and you can kind of like compare and contrast and see how they differ from each other, and I feel like that would just be a fun little thing to see. Unfortunately, all we can really compare is the Velociprey and the, you know, the Baggy, because, not the Baggy, and the Jaggy. So yeah, that is really sad, really tragic. It would have been really nice if you could actually compare the initial beginning monsters just to see how they stand on their own 2 feet, and, you know, kind of compare them to each other, and, you know, one being from one era of Monster Hunter and the other being from another era of Monster Hunter, just seeing how they really hold up and stack up against each other when in the same game in the same generation. I feel like that'd be, like, really, really interesting to see. Yeah, and that's another thing. Great Jaggy isn't in Generations Ultimate, but Velocidrome is. That is so sad and so tragic. But at least we were able to kill the Velocidrome, not the Velocidrome, the Iodrome. That's all 3 slain. I think I might have messed myself up here by killing him in the loading zone, but I'm not entirely sure. Maybe I can just barely get to his head. I cannot. I might have messed up. I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna see if I can, like, slowly inch my way towards it, but that's probably one of the most frustrating things in OG Monster Hunter, is, like, accidentally killing a monster in a loading zone. I think I'm probably gonna run out of time at this point, but I think if I, like, move sideways, because whenever you, like, move forward 4 feet, that was me just barely tapping the analog stick, like that. But if I can just get right here, no, he's in the loading zone. Oh well, I'll just wait right here. I'd rather wait with the Iodrome instead of the Vestblade, because I really don't want to deal with them. Alright, I think I'm going to call it right there. Thank everybody so much for watching. If you liked the video, leave a like on it. Comment down below on how you feel about the drones and the drone enemies not coming back. And also about my boy Great Jaggy. How do you feel that he was the only one of the Dog Wyvern trio not brought back in Monster Hunter Rise? Because I was absolutely devastated. But yeah, that's it. If you want to see more content like this, subscribe to the channel, and if you want to support the future of the channel, check out my Patreon link in the description below, or become a member here on this YouTube as well. That's it. Thank you everybody so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye now.